Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 10 of Tales from the Quarantine. We are now officially in double digits. And as I'll sort of speak to in a moment, it looks like we are just looking at the beginning of this thing here. So, today is day 10 of the quarantine, and I've got two subjects on my mind today. The first is that while all of this nonsense is happening, I'm in the middle of trying to find new housing. So my contract with my current job is up on May 20th, and my apartment, excuse me, my apartment is attached to the job. So I will have to move out of my apartment and find someplace new. And of course, as any responsible person would, I have to go see the apartment before I can move in there. So this has led me to feeling a little queasy. Not in a literal sense, but in a sort of moral sense. On the one hand, and I mean, I've sort of spoken to this before when I was talking sort of more largely about bike rides. Also, this little piece of hair that keeps sticking out is really annoying me. Anyway, I've spoken to this before when I was talking about how I felt about going out for bike rides in the quarantine. And I feel pretty cool, it makes me feel not great. You're supposed to stay in the house. On the other hand, you need to be able to exercise. And I mean, the WHO and the CDC do say that you need to maintain yourself actively in some capacity. I mean, especially in an apartment like this, you can't just sit around all day. And secondly, you need to be able to conduct essential business. Obviously there's a legal definition for what essential business is. I mean, most places in the worst of the lockdowns are basically just saying the grocery store and like walking the dog, and that's it. But I would consider being able to find housing or being able to secure, a place to live is definitely essential business. So, I mean, I bike there. I don't touch anyone when I bike. I don't sort of go within 6 feet of anyone, with very rare exceptions if I have to make some, emergency ventures or emergency moves, I'll say. And generally, I'm keeping social distance, even though it's not in the recommended social distance of your house. So, I mean, I guess that's what I'm sort of thinking through. With the apartments, I mean, I've got sort of mixed feelings, because on the one hand, I live in a really boring part of town. There is this term in Spanish called godines, basically like like a term for your basic office worker, your middle manager, your pencil pusher. And my neighborhood is just all godines and all businesses and like a few restaurants, no bars, no sort of nothing. There are a few cafes here and there that are pretty good. But overall, it's a pretty boring neighborhood. Everybody's much older than I am. It's just not, like, I just don't like it. It's nice because it's a 5-minute walk from my work, and in a place like Mexico City, that's invaluable. But not a fan of the neighborhood. However, the apartment itself, I quite like. I quite like this apartment, actually. It fits me very well. Again, location isn't great, but I mean, it's got everything I need. It's a nice apartment, really nicer than a 23-year-old, doofus like me should be living in. And I mean, the school pays for it, so. On the other hand, I am ready to get out of here. I think Moyete is going to be sad that she loses her little cat cubby over there. I mean, these other places, they're in much better parts of town. They're actually, one of them is less expensive than this one, and would be with a roommate. Yeah, I mean, I'm just ready to get out of here. I need to get to a place that's with my people, so to say, like with people closer to my sort of demographics. I want to be closer to the sort of exciting parts of the city, the museums, the bars, the restaurants, whatever. Really, I just want to live in a different part of the city. I mean, I've been living ever since I've gotten here, I've been living on the edges. For the first 3 months, I was essentially in the suburbs, with my friend Roberto. Then I was not in the suburbs, but basically at the end of the metro line, which is basically the suburbs. in Tasqueña. And then now I'm in Barranca del Muerto, Guadalupe, and whatever you want to call it, which is also at the end of a metro line. So, I mean, any way you slice it, I've been pretty far out since I've been here. And so I'd really like to move in, get a little bit closer to the action, be in a more exciting part of the city. But that's one thing. The reason I bring that up today is because I had to leave today to see an apartment, and I'll have to leave again tomorrow to see another apartment. So that's what's sort of on my mind today, and it also makes me think of the people who are going on rent strike, which I think will be happening soon. So good luck to all of you. Stay safe out there. To your rent strikers. I literally cannot participate in the rent strike as I do not pay rent. It's handled by the school. So solidarity, but I'm afraid that's all I can give you. Yeah, so that's sort of what's on my mind today. Day 10. The other thing, yeah, sorry, that was one of two things. The other thing is that even though it sort of began to sink in yesterday when the U.S. started making moves, Mexico has now canceled all non-essential work for the next 30 days. So this quarantine is going to be going on for a while. I've been reading some news reports about the sort of state, the Mexican status of the coronavirus. I don't know, man. We could be really hunkered down for a while here, which is pretty concerning. Because right now, since tomorrow is the first day of April. We're looking at, you'll be listening to my ugly mug here for at least the next 30 days, basically. That's concerning. But be that as it may, some things are a little bit more in question now. This job that I've been sort of talking up is not necessarily on the ropes, but I've sort of gotten myself tied in some knots here that I'm gonna have to undo tactfully, very tactfully. But yeah, so that's sort of where I am right now, thinking about apartments, thinking about work, thinking about how long we're gonna be here, because it could be a while. Definitely could be a while. So I suppose tomorrow I'm going to start having to figure out how I'm going to do my little I always do the thumbnail with holding up the number of fingers for days, but I don't have 11 fingers, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. That's day 10 of Tales from the Quarantine. Thank you for those who continue to tune in. It's nice to not just be talking to the void. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in for day 10. See you tomorrow for day 11.